Greetings to Misanati. My name is Narendran Sanachellam, and today I'll be presenting on types of tectonic plate boundaries. So moving to the table of contents on presentation today, I'll be starting off with tectonic plates, then moving into tectonic plate boundary, and finally types of tectonic plate boundaries. So before we jump into tectonic plate boundaries, what is tectonic plates? The Earth's lithosphere, which includes the crust and upper mantle, is made up of a series of tectonic plates that move slowly over time. In a way, we can say that the Earth resembles as a giant jigsaw puzzle. The tectonic plates are made up of both continental and oceanic crust. The plate size can vary greatly from a few hundred to thousands of kilometers across. So moving into the tectonic plate boundary. The border between two plates is known as a tectonic plate boundary. Most geological activities such as volcanoes, earthquakes, and mountain building takes place at place boundaries. The tectonic plates move slowly and steadily in various directions. Some approaches one another, some moves away from each other, and some grinds past each other. Based on the varied motions, tectonic plate borders are divided into three types or categories. So moving into the types of tectonic plate boundaries. The first type is the divergent boundary. Divergent boundary occurs when two plates move away from one another. Divergent boundaries has constructive margins due to being able to create new crust. Along these boundaries, earthquakes are common, and magma rises from the Earth's mantle to the surface, solidifying to create new crust or layer. Divergent boundaries can be categorized into two types based on where they occur. The first type is the continental divergence. Divergent plate boundaries which occur at continental crust produces reef valley. Figure 1.0 below shows reef valley which is produced from continental divergence. And the second type is the oceanic divergence. Divergent plate boundaries which occur at oceanic crust produces mid-ocean ridge. Figure 2.0 below that shows the mid-ocean ridge produced from the oceanic divergence. So moving to the second type of boundary, the convergent boundary. Convergent boundary occurs when two plates collide with one another. The impact of the colliding plates can cause the edges of one or both plates to buckle up into a mountain range, or one of the plates may bend down into a deep sea floor trench. A chain of volcanoes often forms parallel to convergent plate boundaries, and powerful earthquakes are common along these boundaries too. Convergent boundaries can be categorized into three. The first type is the oceanic continental convergence, oceanic convergence, and finally the continental convergence. So moving into the first type of convergent boundary, oceanic continental convergence. This phenomena occurs when an oceanic crust collides with a continental crust. The denser oceanic crust will sink and the less dense continental crust will rise. As the plate moves under the continental plate, the rock melts and rises, creating volcanoes. Along these, trenches are also created. Figure 3.0 on the right-hand side shows the oceanic continental convergence process, and figure 4.0 below that shows volcano created from the oceanic continental convergence. So moving to the second type of convergent boundary, the oceanic convergence. In collisions between two oceanic plates, the denser oceanic lithosphere sinks beneath less dense oceanic lithosphere, forming volcanic islands and subduction zones. Figure 5.0 on the right-hand side shows the oceanic convergence process, and figure 6.0 shows the Japanese archipelago, which is an example of volcanic islands. So moving into the final type of convergent boundary, the continental convergence. This event occurs when two continental crusts converge into one another. Because of the collision's immense force, energy release from the collision will produce earthquakes and metamorphic rocks. Due to the crust being very thick, it does not allow magma to pass through. As an outcome, mountains are formed. Figure 7.0 on the right-hand side shows a continental convergence process, and figure 8.0 below that shows an example of a mountain formed through continental convergence, which is the Himalayas. So moving to the final type of plate boundary, a tectonic plate boundary is the transform plate boundary. Transform boundaries occurs when two plates slide past one another. The relative motion of the plates is horizontal. They can occur underwater or on land, and crust is neither destroyed nor created. Because of the friction cost, because of the friction created, the plates cannot simply glide past one another. Rather, stress builds up in both plates, and when it exceeds the threshold of the rocks, the energy is released in the form of earthquakes. Figure 9.0 shows the transform plate boundary process in a figure, and figure 10.0 shows the biggest ever transform plate boundary to ever occur, which is known as the San Andreas fault. And that is all from me. Thank you for listening.